I fear for them this week against Brisbane. They may have to do something different. Look, I've said this before to you. I think zoning is one of the greatest cons in the history of the game, but every side does it.
Yep.
If they zone against the Brisbane Lions, with their talent they've got, with those gaps, they would just destroy them. And I think they've got to try something different, the Bombers. Maybe Dean Solomon this week's got to say, listen, we're playing man on man, and we're going to test each and every player. You've got someone to actually beat. And take it as a great challenge. You're playing on the full forward, you're playing on the half forward flank, you're playing on the wing, and you've got a man to beat. And lay down a challenge to the players, because they need something different. If they just roll up as they've been rolling up, they've won one game in 28.
Yeah.
How they ever beat Melbourne in Gather Round is one of the greatest mysteries of the season. I'm not sure. I think you're at that game.
There. Yeah, that was over at the Adelaide Oval, and I think they have actually beaten Melbourne. Beaten Melbourne a couple of times in Gather Round at the Adelaide Oval. So maybe that's their great home ground there. The Adelaide Oval.
I think they've got to do something different against Brisbane. They can't. I mean, last week I was listening to your call, and I think they were 80 points down at one stage against St Kilda. I think they looked like they were going to lose by about 150 points, but as we know, lots of sides, they put on the handbrake and they just cruise to the line. But they were uncompetitive last week, and I've seen some of the vision as well. So I'd like to hear from Essendon supporters, what they'd like to see this week. I mean, do they just want to see him go out there and try and do zoning again? I mean, the most talented sides in the competition, they're highly skilled. You leave gaps, they just go straight through it. And then if you haven't got great skills yourself, you turn the ball over and then you get killed the other way as well. So they've got to try and do something. They've got to be competitive. If you're playing on someone, you can say, look, I don't mind if we get beat because your opponent's too big, too strong, too tall, too quick, too agile, just too talented. But he's got to beat you in a contest. Yep. He's got to beat you in a contest, because if he doesn't have to beat you in a contest, you'll lose by 150 points. But if you make it a contest, you may get surprised how many times you may win a contest. And sometimes players can be very good when they're not in a contest, but if you put them in a contest and someone up against them, you may find some weaknesses. Yep. And I'd like to see Dean Solomon go out there with maybe some different idea and a different tactic, and just say, let's play a bit of man on man and let's just see how they go. Now, I don't expect him to win, but I'd like to see him be competitive. I mean, he was a great player and he coached the Bombers quite successfully. But I think they were playing finals a year. They got rubbed out and Carlton took their space. Remember that? Yep. And they beat Richmond. They brought in some bloke called Digan. I think it was Alex Jeslenko, and he kicked 4 goals. And
he said he was a ring-in.
He was a ring-in. He was definitely a ring-in. He was an imposter. No one ever seen him before. kicked four goals. But so James Hird was quite successful. And I thought Essendon did play with a lot of passion. I can remember a big game they played. It might have been against Fremantle over in the West, and they were down, and they come from behind. They got up. There was tremendous passion in the room after the game. David Evans was there as well. So he'll certainly bring that to him. I'm not quite certain, because of Essendon's situation, whether you bring an outsider in and then he tries to get the message across to Essendon supporters that, he's got a great feeling for the club and, he's got to lift this great club. Whether it's James Hird, maybe they do need an Essendon person who can actually say it and people believe he's going to say it and believe in the fact that he is saying it, that's what he really, truly believes. If a Hawthorn person came in and coached Essendon and said, I love Essendon, they wouldn't believe him. Hird, I think, can coach because he's going to have 7 or 8 assistant coaches as well. Yeah. And he'll be a quick learner.
It's a team he brings.
It's a team he brings. I think if there were some areas of the game he wasn't up with, he'd learn very, very quickly. And he's watched a lot of footy, obviously, and he was with the Giants with Mark McVeigh there for a while when the caretaker coaching. He's been down at Port Melbourne with Brendan McCartney, who coached the Bulldogs. So he's been in football, but not at the highest level. I understand that for a little while, but I think he's smart enough. If he's the person who's selected, it'll be fascinating. I'll tell you what I do like. I like the fact that Essendon's committee to pick their coach is made up of Andrew Welsh, the president, the vice president, a couple of directors, and another official. Essendon Football Club themselves. Because in the past, I've always been critical of boards who are smart enough to sack a coach, but then when it comes to picking a coach, they get a panel in from outside.
Headhunters.
We'll get Ange Postecoglou on the panel. And I'll just make up names. We'll put Mick Malthouse there, and we'll put John Worsfold there, and put Paul Roos there. And if it goes pear-shaped, don't blame us. But we're good enough to sack. So pat on the back to Andrew Welsh. I like that because he's putting himself on the line along with the board. Now, if they're successful, well done. Take all the plaudits that you get.
Yep.
If it fails, move on.
So Carlton are looking for a coach as well. I don't think, well, a few are going to go through the process. I don't think Josh Fraser is going through the process.
Well, he doesn't need to go through a process.
He's saying that I don't think he wants to go through the process.
Well, he shouldn't. I've heard other commentators that say if he puts up his hand, he'll go through the process. His process is, I've won 12 out of 14. I've won 10 out of 14. You've watched me for the last 14 weeks. I mean, that's better than any iPad or PowerPoint presentation you're going to give.
Yeah.
Or you ask me the question, what happens at halftime if we're down by 6 goals? What are you going to do? Well, you've just watched me for 14 weeks and you can see what I'm going to do. So if he does put up his hand, he can have a fireside chat with them, but he doesn't have to go through a process. He's doing the greatest process that Carlton can see at the moment. And that's why I think any assistant coach from another club, their presentation surely cannot match what he's putting out there on the field at the moment as coach.
Should he put his hand up now? If he puts his hand up, they've almost got to give it to him, yeah?
Well, I'm not quite certain what other senior coach. I mean, I don't know whether Longmire wants to put his hand up or whether Hinkley wants to, and then that's up to the Carlton Football Club.
Looks like they want to go down the assistant or the untried coach.
Well, if they want to go down there, that Josh Fraser's got everyone covered by a million miles. Got them covered by a million miles. Now, I know when he first took over, he said, I don't think I'm ready to coach. Well, after you win the first 7 games, I mean, you'd have to think to yourself, well, maybe I undersold myself a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do this. And I'm learning very quickly on the job. And give yourself a bit of kudos. I'd like to see him pump up his own tyres a little bit, saying, you know what, I'm doing a bloody good job.
Yep.
And the players have responded. Let's not forget that when they lost 8 games straight, Cripps couldn't get a kick. Walsh couldn't get a kick. Hewitt couldn't get a kick.
Yep. He wasn't even playing, Hewitt.
He wasn't even playing, got dropped. So he takes over, the cloud goes off of the players. Cripps is now fantastic again. Walsh is playing great football. Hewitt's back, as the best and fairest winner playing in that sort of form again. Bringing young Jack Ison, a bit of, young blood. Taylor Byrne comes into the side. Young Wilson comes into the
Billy
side.
Wilson, yep.
All of a sudden, they're playing with some freedom. And, full credit to Josh Fraser for, bringing those young players in, giving a chance, getting Hewitt back into the side. And all of a sudden, Carlton's won 7 on the trot.
Andrew, you're first. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, guys. I'm not an Essendon supporter, but I cannot believe, apart from emotion and, an ex-footballer, that they would put in charge a bloke who basically blew the club up, cost them millions of dollars, $2 million fine. Anybody remembers that? The $1 million they paid him just to spend a year in France with his family. He basically oversaw a drug program. They got rid of everyone from the president down to shield him, and he finally left in disgrace, costing the club millions of dollars and years of heartache. Yeah, everyone else wants to put him back. I just can't understand why Essendon would let the guy anywhere near that club.
Well, that's a decision they've got to make, and we can ask Kevin Sheedy that. He was responsible. What James Hird got suspended for was lack of governance, not because he was feeding any drugs to the players himself, but just the lack of governance, not being fully aware of what was going on in the club, and and allowing people to run a program that wasn't overseen correctly. And so, therefore, he faced the humiliation of what happened to him. At the time, though, he was able to get the best out of the players. I suppose years have rolled by. They're in a situation now where they feel, or he feels anyway, that he can actually come back to the club. And maybe outsiders don't like the idea of James Hird coming back, but I'd like to hear from Essendon supporters whether they like to see James Hird coming back, because it's the Essendon supporters who are going to sign up as members and going to be part of the club. And you would think, unless they're very confident that they're on the right track, Essendon's going to lose a lot of supporters. I want to ask Sheeds about. I see a bit of vision on the tally, or it might have been on Twitter, that there was Essendon supporters trying to leave the ground the other night, and then Kevin's confronted them and said, "No, don't leave the ground. You've got to stay to the end."
Robert's next. G'day, Rob.
G'day, Kevin.
G'day, Robert.
Just your thoughts on John Longmire as coach.
I think
your thoughts on John Longmire as a coach for Essendon.
I think he's fantastic. John Longmire, I think he's been one of the great coaches. 4 grand finals. He won, he won one premiership, unlucky in a couple of others, and got thrashed in another one. But he's been a fantastic coach since he took over from Paul Roos. I mean, the Sydney Swans have been so competitive, and I think he's been one of the great coaches. If he was to get the job,
there's no process for him, is there?
Well, I wouldn't
you just
think.
Go and hire him.
No, again, there would be no process for him. I mean, his record speaks for itself. You have a fireside chat and you sit down, but you're not presenting with PowerPoint presentations and things like that. It depends which track they want to go down. I don't know whether John Longmire's interested in Essendon. I don't know whether Hinckley's interested. Have they put up their hands? I haven't seen that myself yet. Are there talks going on, behind the scenes? There may well be, but this is something that Essendon's got to come to terms with. Whether or not. Or even John Longmire and Hinckley, whether or not they want to take on the Essendon job, because it's not going to be an easy job. And I think they wouldn't want to be in a process. They'd either be given the job, or I didn't put in for it. Longmire's outstanding. And look, I thought last year, before the end of last year, there was a lot of talk that John Longmire would be the next coach of Carlton. Now, whether he's still interested in the Carlton job, who knows?
We'll get to Mark next. G'day, Mark.
Yeah, g'day, fellas. Yeah, I'm a fan. At the start, initially, I wasn't a big fan of Hurdy coming back, but it's kind of grown on the end. Like, the end of the day, can't get any worse because we're absolutely rock bottom. And if we can start with just getting some passion back into the club, well, then that's a bonus, I reckon.
Well, I suppose a lot of us are starting to see the place is just falling apart.
Yeah.
I think you said on the other night, I was listening to you after you watched the game, Matty, on AW, that originally you didn't think maybe James Heard was the person, but after watching them play and being so insipid, that you felt that they needed someone somehow
spark.
who can galvanise them
now
and try and lead the way. Now, is he the Messiah? Well, that's up to Andrew Welsh and the board to decide, and that's what we'll ask Kevin Sheedy. Why is he the Messiah? Why is he the only one that can get the Bombers up and going again? It's not going to be easy. They're not going to turn up in 2017 and all of a sudden be playing finals. That's for certain.
No,
but you've got to play with some passion, and that's why I said, Matty, that I'd like to see against Brisbane a bit of one-on-one and throw it to the players and give them a challenge and do something a bit different, for God's sake. At least we've got the best Kevin on the phone at the moment, because I saw a bit of vision and people trying to leave the ground, Essendon supporters. I take it they were Essendon supporters. And Kevin Sheedy refused. He stood in front of them and ordered them back to their seats, and I want to know what's going on.
What happened, Kevin Sheedy? Welcome to you.
I can't remember it. What are you talking about?
So these people are trying to leave
the ground early, Kevin. You know that.
But these people
are players are out there. They train every day of their life. Just hang about and hang in there. But
so what did you say to them?
Hang about for a little bit longer. The game might change. You actually might see a fantastic young player just do 3 or 4 great things in the last 5 to 20 minutes of a match. And that's what happens sometimes. That's what happens. Not all of us are champions in the first couple of matches, mate.
Yeah, but you got to admit, Kevin, it's a little bit odd for someone to stop someone from leaving the ground. I mean, you must feel very passionate about what's taking place at Essendon at the moment. And I know that you're probably the biggest cheerleader for James Heard, and we've had a number of people on talking about the Bombers and not quite certain whether James is the right man because of what happened all those years ago. Why do you think he's the Messiah?
I don't think he's a Messiah. I think he's probably a more mature person now to take another crack at coaching, in my own mind. He's would have learned a hell of a lot, and he's 10 years out of it after being chopped up and kicked around, and probably makes you shape yourself in a bit of life when you're in your early 50s. And I think that he was a pretty good coach. He got him in the finals. He got kicked out. Fair enough.
Yep.
So therefore, he can win games. There's no doubt about that. And I think in the end, if you can park the history in the background and give the person a second chance, and I'm a great believer in second chances, personally.
The Bombers look shot at the moment, Kev. They're devoid of any sort of enthusiasm or confidence at the moment, and whoever takes on the job, it's going to be a big road back for the Bombers at the moment because you're a million miles away from it. One win in the last 28 games. Last week, 80 points down at one stage. You've got Brisbane playing this week. I mean, it looks like a horrific end to the season. What attributes do you think he's actually going to change as coach of the Essendon Football Club?
Well, I think that we've got to get a good group of people that know and understand the club. as Essendon. I mean, a great club over many, many decades. We've won the most premierships equal with Collingwood and Carlton. And most clubs have their down years. It was only about 30 years ago that Hawthorn and Melbourne really emerged. Well, they both won premierships since. They didn't. So you can be down, but it doesn't mean you're knocked out. You just get up off the deck, get some good people in your club and make it happen. And I think Herd will be the great person for that as a great officer for our club because he understands Essendon. Not a lot of people do.
Kevin, do you think Essendon is at its lowest ebb right now?
Well, they're last on the ladder and they've only been last about 4 times in its history, so it's a fair chance. Yeah, so look, the only way it can go up, and we'll get some early draft picks. We've got about 5 or 6 very good young players, which I think is great. And all we need to do is maybe pick up in the next couple of years 1 or 2 premierships players that might have that experience. I mean, that's what we did in 1992. We went back and got Tim Watson and that sort of style of person that's got experience. And I think in the end, that's the best way to go. We can pick up 2 or 3 very experienced players. What we do as a club at the moment, we've actually let them go and made other clubs a lot better. I think when you look back, probably Brisbane was one of the best recruiting clubs of the Essendon Footy Club.
Yeah, we'll see Draper play against them this week, and that would hurt a lot of Essendon supporters because he looks to be in fine form and looks to be so fit playing for them.
Connor, don't forget Connor. He's already played in the Premiership, the little Irishman.
Yeah.
And there's a guy called Joe Danner that played in the Premiership. So we're really going to give clubs, people, footy clubs, our players. So I think we're going to stop that.
Mark Harvey floated the idea that maybe you could get involved with James Hird. If James Hird become coach, Kev, would you be chairman of selectors? Would you be a mentor there? Would you take on a role at the club to support him through these tough times?
I could easily do that. That's not a problem. I think there's a lot of areas of recruiting that we've got to get better, and there's a lot of different areas that we think as a club we can get better. But that's up to Andrew Welsh and the board and the CEO, Tim, and they're experienced people. They've formed a committee to pick a coach and a number of people to back that coach. So that'll all be done over the process in the next month or 2.
I said before to Matty Granland and the listeners, I'm pleased that Andrew Welsh, as president and vice president and a couple of directors and another official, are going to select the coach for the Essendon Football Club, because in the past we've seen boards very good at sacking coaches, but then all of a sudden getting other people in to try and pick a coach. So they put themselves on the line this time, and if they pick the right person, you have success, or they'll get all the credit. If they don't, well, then they'll move on.
Well, look, I made a good life of picking good coaches, so I ended up with Neil Danaher, Terry Danaher, Mark Thompson, Mark Williams, Dennis Pagan, Mark Harvey. I've had some of the best coaches I've brought into Essendon that the club's ever seen, and we got to 7 grand finals and missed a couple by a kick, a point. So you get to know what type of style of people you need to coach clubs, and I'll back early on this one. I don't care what anybody says. I'll stand on my dig on it. I'm not going to go overboard. I still love the club. I've got no problem with all that, and because I think the guy's a more mature person now in his 50s than what he was when he's very young. Probably thinks that, I can do it, and, very, very hard when you're coming in for your first stint as a coach, I can tell you.
Hey, Kevin, when you talk to the Essendon people when you were there on Sunday, who do they want?
Well, Essendon people, they know what I'm like, they know what I do, and they know, and I hope they understand that I'm a totally football person. Kevin knows that, and I wouldn't like to be making too many bad decisions. Not that I'm in a position to make decisions, but there will be some times when you're giving advice to people that, from my knowledge, after 50 years in the game and 1,000+ games, I'm a reasonably good sort of person to take knowledge off, maybe.
What about senior coaches like John Longmire and Ken Hinkley, Kevin? If they were to coach the Bombers or come in as senior coach, how difficult do you think they would find it?
Well, they're experienced coaches. They've had success. John's won a premiership. Lost 4 grand finals, which is a very, very hard gig to cope with. I'd hate to sort of, I know it's like losing 3, let alone 4. But there are coaches out there. But yeah, look, I'm glad I'm not on the coaching panel interviewing, because I know that I just see with Ted, he's just got this killer instinct that'll be successful, like Tom Hafey had when I first met Tom Hafey. He's just going to wind up and go after success and build a club like he did with Richmond.
I heard Matthew Lloyd say the other day that he was in his company and he couldn't believe how passionate he is about wanting to come back and how desperate he is to be the coach of the Bombers and the presentation he's going to make. Have you spoken to him about the presentation he's actually going to put forward to the board?
No, I haven't, I'll be honest. To me, it's about how James handles that situation himself. But if he needs any sort of advice, I'm only too happy to give whatever advice I could. But he doesn't need to have his hand held. He knows where he's got to go to, how to get a job. And if he misses out, well, that's life. And probably Essendon will never ever see him back again in regard to coaching. So it's a difficult situation for the club, a very awkward situation for the club. So bear with the people that are sitting on that panel to make the right decision, because the next 5 years of Essendon plus probably 5 to 10 of the most crucial years in the club's history.
Hey, Kevin, thank you very much for having a chat to us tonight.
And by the way, Kevin, that duty ad I did, making sure that people stay the stadium, it's just going to be on TV in an ad for DD, and I love doing it because it was a lot of fun with the people I work with. So if you're going home late, Kev, ring DD and they'll take you home safely.
Can you send a car around for me tonight, Kev?
I could do that for you. I'll just ring DD. They'll be there outside the front door, mate. That's RW. Not a problem.
Well, isn't that great news? Now, if I was an Essendon supporter, go by train, go by tram, get to the footy, and then just get DD, say Kevin Sheedy said, pick me up, take me home.
But you've got to stay till the end, though. That's the whole idea.
Who picks up the tab, Kev?
Mate, the sort is the same. It's all about you basically get half price if you stay longer. If you want to go out and have a drink with the boys or the girls or whatever, celebrate, then DD's the one. See you, buddy.
Okay.
No
Good on you, Kevin. Thank you for that.
He's gone.
He's gone. He's passionate about James Hird.
He is. I mean, he's his biggest cheerleader. There's no doubt about that. He's convinced in his own mind that James Hird is the only person really who can resurrect the Essendon Football Club. And it is fascinating. We don't know who's actually in for the job yet. Exactly who's in for the job. I think Mark McVeigh maybe could be in for the job. Dean Solomon obviously is in for the job. They talk about Hayden Skipworth. Maybe he could be in for the job.
And all the usual suspects like James Kelly and those sort of guys.
James Kelly, Corey Enright. So there's a lot of assistant coaches out there. But again, from what you hear from Essendon supporters, and we may even have time to take a few more calls, it seems that they feel that they need someone to galvanise the club who bleeds Essendon Football Club, whereas a lot of people say, get away from it. But they might be in a position where they can't afford to get away from it at the moment. If it's not James Hird, it's Dean Solomon. If it's not Dean Solomon, it's Mark McVeigh.